The hour is 7 p.m. Having arrived, I'll call to order this regular meeting of Keene City Council. The meeting is broadcast live on the City of Keene YouTube channel. The video is also streamed on the city's website and is posted to the website by the end of the next business day, barring any technical difficulties. If you'd like to receive an electronic City Council packet to reference during viewing of future broadcasts, please contact the City Clerk's office during business hours or go to the city's website and subscribe to the city meetings email list. The agenda is also accessible from any mobile device. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Brian J. Lake.
Here.
Michael J. Remy.
Here.
Gladys Johnson.
Here.
Michael Giacomo.
Here.
Randy L. Filio.
Here.
Robert C. Williams.
Here.
Philip M. Jones.
Here.
And Andrew M. Madison.
Here.
Chrissy Roberts. Raleigh C. Omerod. Bettina A. Chadbourne.
Here.
Catherine I. Workman.
Here.
Mitchell H. Greenwald. Kate M. Bosley. Thomas F. Powers.
Here. Thank you very much. Councilor Chadbourne, will you please lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And I'm looking to Councilor Powers for a motion. Please, Councilor Giacomo for a second.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to accept the minutes of the November 17th, 2022 meeting as presented.
Second. And we have a motion from Councilor Powers, seconded by Councilor Giacomo. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? That is unanimous. We have just a few announcements. Phil Jones's birthday was on December 2nd, so happy birthday to Phil. And we have a couple of dates of interest coming up. This is going to be our last meeting of 2022, so the committee meetings next week are canceled. And our annual meeting with our legislative delegation is going to be January 4th at 6:30. And we have a Right to Know workshop coming up on January 10th at 6 p.m. So please join that if you can. And we have a special city council meeting that'll be January 31st at 6 p.m. to do a review for one of the charter officers. You also might have seen in the Sentinel this past week, unfortunately, a member of our community, Jim Rumenier, passed away. And he was a longtime editor at the Sentinel. He was involved in a lot of stuff in town, cared a lot about this community, and worked in this community, made it his home for over 50 years. So he's going to be sorely missed, and I hope you get a chance to check out his obituary. Which brings us to nominations, number one.
This evening, the mayor is submitting his sort of first wave of nominations. For the most part, these nominations represent those current members that are eligible for a second term. And the only exceptions would be two corrections in some term dates, and that would be for Nathan Jacobs on the Airport Development and Marketing and Steve Bianco on Keene Housing Authority. So with those two as corrections, we have to the Airport Development and Marketing Committee, Peter Temple with a term to expire December 31, 2025, and Luca Paris, term to expire December 31, 2025. Again, Nathan Jacobs is a correction on his term, December 31, 2024, to the Ashwillet River Park Advisory Board. Russell Zullo, term to expire December 31, 2025. Suzanne Krautman, December 31, 2025, as well as Tom Haynes, who has been serving as an alternate, December 31, 2025. To the Assessors Board, John Newcomb, December 31, 2025, and as an alternate, Bicycle Pedestrian Path Advisory Board, December 31, 2025, that would be Chuck Redfern. To the Conservation Commission, Arthur Walker, December 31, 2025, as well as Andrew Madison, December 31, 2025. To Energy and Climate Committee, Claire Ausler, again, December 31, 2025. And to Historic District Commission, Sofia Cuna Vasconcelos, December 31, 2025. Peter Panessa, who's been serving as an alternate, again, December 31, 2025. To the Human Rights Committee, Counselor Workman, December 31, 2025, and Sofia Cuna Vasconcelos, December 31, 2025. To the Keene Housing Authority, Christopher Coates, December 31, 2025. This is our corrected term for Steve Bianco, December 31, 2026. Partner City Committee, we neglected to extend Councilor Giacomo's term on the Partner City Committee when he came back into office, so it's December 31, 2023. Renomination for John Mitchell and Greg Kleiner and Will Schaffman, all December 31, 2025. To the Planning Board, David Orgaz, December 31, 2025, as well as Armando Rangel, December 31, 2025. And lastly, to the Trustees of Trust Funds Cemetery Trustees, Marilyn Gemmel, December 31, 2025.
And so these will be tabled to our next regular meeting, which brings us to number 2, confirmations.
These 3 are confirmation of all alternate positions, though unfortunately your packet doesn't reflect that Lisa Maxfield and Kenneth Swimmer are both alternate positions on Energy and Climate. And for Lisa, it would be December 31, 2023 is her expiration date, and Kenneth Swimmer, December 31, 2025. To the Conservation Commission, Lee Standish, again an alternate, December 31, 2025.
I'm looking at Counselor Powers for a motion. Counselor Giacomo for a second, please.
I move to confirm the nominations.
Second.
We have a motion from Counselor Powers, seconded by Counselor Giacomo. Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Remy?
Yes.
Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Giacomo?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Madison?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
And Counselor Workman?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
And that is unanimous, which brings us to communications, number 1.
This is our annual request from the Downtown Group for use of city property for the Ice and Snow Festival, which is scheduled for February 4th.
And so I guess we're going to suspend the rules on this item because the festival's coming up and they need this approval. So I'm looking at Counselor Giacomo for a motion. Counselor Chadbourne for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Move to suspend Section 26 of the Rules of Order to introduce and act upon the request from the Keene Downtown Group.
Second.
We have a motion from Counselor Giacomo, seconded by Counselor Chadbourne. Any discussion on the suspension of the rules? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Remy?
Yes.
Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Giacomo?
Yes.
And Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Madison?
Yes.
And Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Workman?
Yes.
And Counselor Powers?
Yes.
And that's unanimous. The rules are suspended. I'm looking for a motion from Counselor Giacomo with a second by Counselor Chadbourne, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. We move to recommend that the Keene Downtown Group be granted a street fair license to use downtown city rights-of-way for purposes of conducting merchant sidewalk sales, as well as use of the downtown city property on Central Square, Railroad Square, and designated parking spaces on Central Square and Main Street to conduct the Ice and Snow Festival on Saturday, February 4th, 2023, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. In addition, the applicant is permitted to close off a portion of Railroad Square from Main Street to the exit of the Wells Street parking garage. This permission is granted subject to the customary licensing requirements of the City Council, submittal of signed letters of permission from the owner for any use of private property, and compliance with any recommendation of city staff. In addition, the petitioner is granted use of the requested parking spaces free of charge under the provisions of the free parking policy. The petitioner agrees to absorb the cost of any city services over and above the amount of city funding allocated in the fiscal year 23 community events budget.
Second.
We have a motion from Counselor Giacomo, seconded by Counselor Chadbourne. Counselor Giacomo?
Thank you. The request for this one would normally be going through the PLD committee. However, the next PLD committee would be next month, and they're trying to get their planning underway here. This is the 20th anniversary of the Ice and Snow Festival in downtown Keene, and the 2023 event will include 12 ice carvers, as well as downtown merchant activities on the sidewalks, and children's games and activities in Railroad Square. So the event scope remains consistent with previous years, but it's very exciting. For 20 years, they've been hosting this festival, and it's always been a great draw, rain, snow, or shine. Sponsors met with city staff and the city protocol committee already, And the city protocol team, rather, has recommended that council grant the request for a license to be granted.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? That is unanimous, which brings us to number 2.
And this is a communication from Councilor Greenwald relative to encouraging further public comment on the downtown Main Street improvement projects.
And this will be filed into the record as informational. Number 3.
This is our request from Eversource Energy. They want to return back to Keene to do some tree trimming on scenic roads, and they include the Peg Shop Road, Chapman Road, Whitcomb's Hill Road, Daniels Hill Road, Hurricane Road, Langley Road, Felt Road, and Stearns Road. And you'll recall that any kind of tree trimming or removement of stone walls has a statutory process with a required joint public hearing with the Conservation Commission and a public hearing.
So this will be referred to MSFI and the Conservation Commission. The joint public hearing with the Conservation Commission will be scheduled for February 2nd, 2023 at 7 p.m. This brings us to committee reports. Number 1.
Informational report from Spectrum Service relative to their issues and their updates that they've been making before the Finance Committee.
And this will be filed as informational. Number 2.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to efforts to reduce the risk of lead paint poisoning. On a vote of 4-0, the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee recommends referring the communication regarding efforts to reduce the risk of paint poisoning from lead paint to the city manager for further discussions with Sullivan and Cheshire counties.
And I'm looking to Council Powers for a motion. Council Remy for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
We have a motion from Council Powers, seconded by Council Remy. Council Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. Councilor Williams joined us last week at our meeting and gave us a very comprehensive overview of the issues that face many citizens. Hard to believe that in this day and age and all the modern things going on, we're still dealing with lead paint. It's a significant issue for lots of folks. It goes undetected many times because people sort of poo-poo it, don't want to talk about it. In other cases, when it is reported and they try to deal with it, it becomes a real expense. So there are some opportunities around the state that we'd like to see the city of Keene get involved with. The city manager, this is getting referred to her. The city manager did some pre-work and talked about this particular program that's going on in Sullivan County. She's had a discussion with Cheshire County, and all are willing to work together to work on this project. And really, by combining efforts of various agencies, we're going to get more bang for our bucks. We're not duplicating effort. So it was unanimously voted to refer it to the city manager. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion? Council Williams.
Thank you, and I want to say thanks to the FOP committee for hearing me out. Lead paint is an ongoing problem. It's been, it was outlawed in 1978. That was 44 years ago, and we're still dealing with it today. And I just want to say thank you to the city councilor, city manager, for really being proactive about this. I really think that we can bring some resources into the city to help homeowners and landlords deal with this problem, and I appreciate what you're doing to make it happen.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? That's unanimous. Number 3.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to a memorial grant from the Fire Department. On a vote of 4-0, the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee recommends the city manager be authorized to do all things necessary to accept and expend the Lieutenant Joseph D. Bernardo Memorial Foundation grant for the purpose of outfitting department members with emergency rope escape systems.
Council Powers for a motion. Council Remy for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
We have a motion from Council Powers, seconded by Council Remy. Council Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. We were joined by Lieutenant Jeremy LaPlante of the Fire Department and explained the history, the beginnings of this particular granting agency. And it has some history in New York City Fire Department. Essentially, the city's going to be awarded $11,997 for the purchase of modern emergency rope escape systems, one for each employee. So you're always prepared to do what's commonly known as a bailout if everything goes bad within a fire. This gives you an opportunity to latch onto something within the building and shinny yourself back out. And in many cases, it has to be done, and it's one of the best ways for life saving. So the committee unanimously recommends that the city council accept this grant. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion? Yes, Councilor Madison?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just to give some of the background on this incident, on this grant, it came out of an incident called Black Sunday with the New York City Fire Department, in which several firefighters were faced with a scenario in which they had the option to either be engulfed in flames or jump out of a fifth-story window. 2 firefighters jumped out, were killed. 2 other firefighters had rope escape equipment. It wasn't long enough to make it to the bottom, but Lieutenant DiBernardo offered his rope escape to another firefighter because that firefighter had family. So that firefighter was able to escape, suffered serious injuries. Lieutenant DiBernardo then perished in his attempt to escape. So I guess just telling this story, I just want you guys to think this holiday time about some of our first responders. I mean, we just saw the fire chief just walk out with his, radio going off. So we'll probably hear sirens in a few minutes. And perhaps it was, a sign that this came to FOP just a few days after the anniversary of the Worcester Cold Storage Fire, in which 6 firefighters lost their lives. My father was one of the investigators on that fire. So I guess the whole point of my ramble is just think about our firefighters this holiday season, our firefighters, our police officers, our EMTs out there working. Yeah, and just kudos to the fire department for going after grant funding to help keep them safe and help keep us safe.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Further comments or discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Number 4.
Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee report relative to a law enforcement substance abuse reduction initiative grant. This on behalf of the Police Department. On a vote of 4-0, the Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee recommends the manager be authorized to do all things necessary to accept and expend the New Hampshire Department of Safety 2023 Law Enforcement Substance Abuse Reduction Initiative grant in the amount of $30,000.
Councilor Powers for motion, Councilor Remy for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilor Powers, seconded by Councilor Remy. Councilor Powers.
Guys. Thank you, Your Honor. Captain Steve Tenney joined us last week at the FOP meeting, and there are a series of grants that are going to the police department. The first one is in the current fiscal year for the funding, 2023 Law Enforcement Substance Abuse Reduction Initiative Grant, and it's $30,000 coming to the city, and it will assist with the cost of doing narcotics investigations. Much of the time, those investigations require overtime and additional personnel, so this is very helpful as they work on that particular program that we hear about every single day. Finance Committee voted unanimously to recommend that this grant be accepted by that the City Council authorize the acceptance of this grant. Thank you.
Any discussion? Yes, Councilor Williams.
Thank you. I voted against this last year, and I'm going to vote against it this year as well. Ultimately, I feel like it's money to fund the drug war, and I can't support that in good conscience, so I will be voting against.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Oppose? 1 oppose. Number 5.
Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee report relative to a 2021 Homeland Security grant relative to search and rescue equipment. Again, on behalf of the Police Department, on a vote of 4-0, the Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee recommends the manager be authorized to do all things necessary to accept and expend a 2021 Homeland Security Grant Program award for the purchase of search and rescue equipment.
Council Powers for a motion, Council Remy for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
We have a motion from Council Powers, seconded by Council Remy. Council Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. Once again, Captain Tenney explained the funding source for this particular grant is from 2021 funding through the Homeland Security Grant Program. In other words, it's federal money that comes through the state agencies and then on down to the various local agencies that need particular equipment or particular programs they're working on. In this case, it's $13,475.62, and it's for search and rescue equipment is what the title of the grant area is, and they're going to be replacing their breaching tool and a cut saw for use when they have to get into certain places that people don't want to let them in. The committee voted unanimously to recommend that the City Council vote to accept this grant. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? That is unanimous. Number 6.
And our last grant for the evening, again on behalf of the Police Department, is a 2020 Homeland Security Grant for some response equipment. On a vote of 4-0, the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee recommends the city manager be authorized to do all things necessary to accept and expend a 2020 Homeland Security Program award to be used for the purchase of training and response suits.
Council Powers for a motion, Council Remy for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
We have a motion from Council Powers, seconded by Council Remy. Council Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. Captain Tenney reports that this particular funding source is from the year 2020 grant, and it's earmarked, it's from the Homeland Security Program, and it was earmarked for training and response suits. However, after they did a quick review of their equipment and what's necessary and where the greater needs are, instead of buying these particular suits, they're going to replace their masks. It calls it gas mask, but it's a really all-use gas that's pretty necessary, and the more modern ones are much more versatile and easier to use for the folks that will use them at particular time, and the older ones will still be made available to other members of the police department who aren't on the front line of any particular event like this. So the committee voted unanimously to recommend that the city manager be authorized to accept this grant. We hope that the council will do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? That one's unanimous as well. Number 7.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to the American Legion and the recreational fields on Court Street. On a vote of 4-0, the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee recommends the manager be authorized to do all things necessary to negotiate and execute a control and use agreement between the American Legion Post Number 4 and the City of Keene for the recreational fields located at 797 Court Street.
Thank you. Council Powers for motion. Council Remy for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
A motion from Council Powers, seconded by Council Remy. Council Powers.
And we were joined by Andy Bohannon, Parks and Recreation Department. This particular action is for renewal of an agreement with the American Legion Post Number 4. There's a long history of an association with them for the fields that are behind the Legion. There's a few years that it wasn't as active and we didn't have the same kind of agreement that was long-term, but over the last number of years, we continue to have an agreement with them, and the financial impact is $5,200. We're looking to have it paid two payments within a particular year, and it's a 5-year term. And the only thing that's different about it is they're going to convert one of the fields to what's going to be called a multi-use field. The softball teams in the city have gone down a little bit. There's not as big a demand, and there's some other available places for them to play softball. So this is a great location on that end of the city to have another general use field available. It's recommended that the council authorize the manager to sign this agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? That is unanimous. Number 8.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to a change order for the water monitoring at the closed municipal landfill. On a vote of 4-0, the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee recommends the manager be authorized to do all things necessary to negotiate and execute change order number 1 with EnviroTrack Environmental Services for additional landfill monitoring services for an amount not to exceed $29,200 for a revised contract total of $100,700.
Counselor Powers for motion, Counselor Remy for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
And we have a motion from Counselor Powers, seconded by Counselor Remy. Counselor Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. This actually is a correction to the vote we took on October 27th. The total amount of the contract was incorrect. Excuse me. So this now is change order number 1. The contract is not to exceed $29,200 for the additional work being done by the engineering firm, and the total contract price is $100,700, all of which is within the budget currently. So we'd ask the council to approve this to clean up that mistake. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none. Oh, Counselor Jones.
Tom said this is within the budget. This doesn't come out of the closure fund?
Well, it's in the budget.
It's in the operating budget?
City Manager.
I do believe this is in the operating budget.
So I want to know.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? That is unanimous. Number 9.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to a change order number 2, this one dealing with the Marlborough Street Corridor Improvement Project. On a vote of 4-0, the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee recommends the manager be authorized to do all things necessary to negotiate and execute an engineering services change order with DuBois and King for additional services required for the design of the Marlborough Street Corridor Improvement Project for an amount not to exceed $39,000, funding to come from Cost Center 75J0018A.
Counselor Powers for motion, Counselor Remy for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
We have a motion from Counselor Powers, seconded by Counselor Remy. Counselor Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is for some additional work that's going to be done by DuBois and King, the engineering firm that's been working through this project that actually started in 2019. We're now working towards the current phase, which is the final phase of paving, curbs, and kind of making it a little more attractive going down that road into a corridor area that we're looking for further development to happen. As a result of the time going on since 2019, some of the changes, costs of doing business, and the requirement by the state for oversight and additional engineering, the contractor now needs an additional funding of $39,000. As mentioned in the introduction, it is available in the budget, and they're looking hopefully towards starting some construction on the pavement in this coming year. We're almost into a new year here in a couple of weeks, and hopefully product will be available and that can be done. It'll be a nice project to finish up. Committee voted unanimously to recommend that the City Council authorize the manager to sign this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? That is unanimous. City Manager.
Just a few updates for you this evening. Just a couple more comments in regards to the lead abatement program. I did have an initial conversation with both Sullivan County and Cheshire County managers, and I will have a follow-up meeting to see if it's possible to put together a joint application to HUD. And I will let you know what I learn and keep you updated in that progress. In addition to that, we will look at a communication effort in regards to lead poisoning, and I'll work with our marketing and communications manager to do that. So just a couple updates. The last time we held our holiday luncheon was in 2019. Concerns about COVID canceled our gathering in 20 and 21. This year we had hoped to return to normal, but sadly our departments and volunteers weren't able to pull it off. Instead, we will be providing a $25 Hannaford gift card as a small token of thanks and contribution towards a holiday meal for our year-round employees. Next year, we will plan to return to normal and gather at the Blastos Room in December. In 2023, we will celebrate milestones reached during the years 2020 to 23. Just in one more update, we had experimented with an e-newsletter, and now we're getting a little bit more formal with that. Our marketing and communications director is working with my office on an e-newsletter to be sent out quarterly beginning in mid-January. We will be experimenting with content and format. Rebecca has created a form for the departments to complete for their submissions. The last few years, we've had a great deal of change in leadership in our departments. This change highlighted the need to review our administrative directives, which are really just our organization-wide policies, and make them easier for departments to access. And with the help of the IT department, they are now organized and searchable on the city's intranet system, which should make it easier for our department leadership and employees to access. And we're currently reviewing and updating those policies. There's about 80 of them. And that's really it, other than thanking all of you for another great year, and thanking our very talented department heads for another great year, and wishing everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy Holiday.
Thank you. This brings us to ordinances for first reading, number 1.
We have a memorandum from the Community Development Director and the introduction of Ordinance O-2219. This is a change to the Land Development Code. There's several sections it's amending, articles dealing with parking and driveways, surface water protection, telecommunications overlay, a change to the conditional use permit for congregate living and social services, and a change to the application process for amending the Land Development Code. And it is contained in Ordinance O-2219, an ordinance relating to amendments to the Land Development Code.
And this will be referred to the Joint Planning Board and Planning Licenses and Development Committee. Which brings us to ordinances for second reading, number 1.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to Ordinance O-2022-17. On a vote of 3-1, the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee recommends the adoption of Ordinance O-2022-17 with either an effective date of January 1, 2023, or following the processing of the first payroll in the municipal software system. And we have Ordinance O-2022-17, an ordinance relating to personnel systems and procedures.
Council Powers for a motion, Council Remy for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. We move to adopt ordinance 2022-17 with either an effective date of January 1st, 2023, or following the processing of the first payroll in the Munis software system.
Second.
We have a motion from Council Powers, seconded by Council Remy. Council Powers?
Thank you, Your Honor. This section of the personnel plan has to deal with, thank you. I don't get those anymore. I just kind of forget it when you don't get them. So, with personal days. And it's the reason that the city is having to deal with it is the software system is not being helpful to the program, and it's been difficult to come to a program. You know, the past program probably did certain things for it, and the new one is not doing it. At any rate, the resolution has been to adjust the way it's managed and recorded so that the 4 days that are available to employees, if they don't take sick leave, is still available. It'll be just broken down into the 4 quarters of the year. It'll be managed that way. It'll be watched to make sure that everybody is, getting what's they're entitled to, that they've recorded what they did take or didn't take, et cetera, will be done in the software, so it'll be much easier to do. It's a little bit different. I mean, a lot of us may be used to the old system that was based on not so much the calendar date, but the date you were hired. But this seems to be the best resolution to this particular situation with the software versus going back to going this time every time somebody was here or not here. So we had a discussion and some concerns about whether or not this was still going to be the same kind of program to employees, and it's the same number of days available And the committee voted 3-1 to recommend that this be passed by the city council, and I hope you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councilor Lake?
Thank you, Your Honor. So I was the lone vote in opposition that night. So while I went down a bit of a rabbit hole in that discussion, my main concern was around some potential unintended consequences of the ordinance. Having had an additional week to consider some input from city staff, I think that those concerns have been alleviated, and I intend on supporting this tonight. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Roll call. Sorry about that. Psych. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Lake.
Yes.
Counselor Remy.
Yes.
Counselor Johnson. Yes. Counselor Giacomo.
Yes.
Counselor Fili.
Yes.
Counselor Williams.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor Madison.
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne.
Yes.
Counselor Workman.
Yes.
Counselor Powers.
Yes.
And that is unanimous. We don't have any further business. There's no non-public. Just before wrapping up, I'd like to extend my thanks to the city manager and our charter officers and the entire City of Keene staff and our department heads who are here, and also the city council. As I look back on the year, we had a couple tragic accidents in the city of Keene that I still think about and are affecting our community. We had some really disruptive infrastructure projects that we had to work through, and definitely caused some more email chatter to come to the city council and myself, and I know the city staff. We saw some key retirements in the city of Keene, and with that, we welcomed some new exciting team members to help us lead the city forward. And with all of that, I think in my time involved with the city council really worked very well together. And I would just hope that everybody reflects on that. I mean, from my perspective, I think you're doing incredibly well and doing good things for the citizens of Keene. So I extend my thanks to you all for your excellent work, and I look forward to working with you in 2023. So thank you, and see you at the holiday party over at Fireworks, and we stand adjourned.